and may speak for a maximum of 10 minutes. Citizens are asked to use the microphone at the speaker stand, clearly state their name and address for the record, and keep comments brief and to the point. Please spell the name for the record, and speakers are reminded that council uses these comment periods as opportunities to gather information and not to respond directly to concerns raised. Information gathered will not be discussed at the business meeting, but instead will be referred by the council president to the appropriate committee for review and discussion at the next committee meeting. We have Mr. Greenberg signed up first.
Good evening. I'm Steve Greenberg, Greenberg, 330 Edgewood Road. Here to address the applicant for the car wash on the Drew site. I've been a resident and my family for 47 years in Forest Hills. It was a great place to raise our family. No crime. Plow the roads. They pick up the leaves. Our kids got a great education. Another important component for a vibrant community is development. But it has to be the right development. The applicant for the car wash on Ardmore Boulevard not make Forest Hills a better place to live. It is not a destination. There are similar car washes in Monroeville, Wilkinsburg, East Pittsburgh. You need to do the right development. Destinations, Roman Bistro, Dunkin' Donuts. We can do that. We're working together to make that happen. As a board member of the Planning Commission, I want to make one thing very clear. The applicant came to us a year ago and applied and was rejected by the Planning Commission. Recently, they came back and made their presentation. There were 4 members that night at the Planning Commission. The vote was 2-2. Therefore, it would have been tabled and continue to be rejected. One of the members who voted yes left the room, came back and said he had a board member on the phone who was willing to vote yes. This board member did not participate in the meeting, did not participate at all on the phone during the conversation. In my estimation, this was an unethical vote. You need to take that into consideration. It is my belief that the Planning Commission's first vote was the right vote to do. As council, you represent the constituents, and it's your responsibility to make Forest Hills a better place to live. It is my feeling that the car wash does not make Forest Hills a better place. Don't panic. We will work together and we will find the right partner for that site, just as we will for the Cosman site and for the shopping center. We're working together to do that. We will make it happen. Don't do development just to do it. Make sure We do what's best for the community. That's your responsibility. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Mr. Caldwell. Good to see you again.
Andrew Caldwell, Caldw, 116 Greensburg Pike, Forest Hills. Mr. Greensburg presented very well the first couple of paragraphs of what I was going to say, so I'm not going to go over it again. But I will say that the history of those two planning commission meetings that had to do with the use of what is known as Drew's property, that's past history. After all, the commission can recommend or not on any subject, but the Borough Council is not required to take into account the commission's recommendations. It is the case, however, that the borough has a 10-year comprehensive plan that recommends, quote, development of a uniform and welcoming street facade along Ardmore Boulevard, unquote. It also recommends further development, quote, desirable attributes to attract cradle of innovation type businesses, unquote. That is to attract high-tech businesses to move from the business incubators in the greater Pittsburgh area. Since the cost of rents and property in areas like Lawrenceville have risen so rapidly, the idea was to bring high-tech business to Forest Hills and to fill out its empty commercial district and to create a pleasant place for Forest Hills citizens to hang out. The new Democratic Forest Hills mayoral candidate has promised to actively market Forest Hills as a major part of her agenda. To do that, Forest Hills in the past could have prepared something like this trifold and distributed it at places like the monthly robotics network meeting, which is attended normally by a couple of hundred people. But Forest Hills did not do so. And we are still a ways away from actively marketing Forest Hills to the kind of businesses that we want to attract. So the council has a choice. If it approves the request to change the zoning of the former Drew's building to match that of Dunkin' Donuts across the street, we can kiss goodbye, probably forever, to the hopes of developing an attractive destination / high-tech business venue on Ardmore Boulevard. On the other hand, it seems to me not fair for the borough to have done nothing so far to have marketed itself to new businesses as recommended in the 10-year comprehensive plan, and simultaneously not allow the owners of the Drew's property to generate a return on the capital that they have invested there. I would suggest, therefore, that the borough have the property appraised as if it were being bought by an uninterested third party, and then buy the property. I'm sure that PNC Bank or another bank would be happy to provide the mortgage. I have absolutely no idea what the property is worth, but say it's $500,000. Then a 7% interest only 5-year mortgage would cost about $35,000 a year. Or the bank might be willing to capitalize the interest so as not to impact the borough's current financial expenses. Then, as the borough's self-marketing program gathers steam, the borough could sell the Drew's property to a business that fits the character described in the comprehensive plan. And the present owners of the property would have received its fair market value in cash. If the borough decides to think about this possibility, I'd be happy to serve on an ad hoc committee to look into it. Thank you, Madam President and Council.
Thank you. Was there anyone else that hadn't signed up that would like to speak? Last chance. Okay, then we're going to move on to the regular business meeting. Thank you so much. We'll have an executive session after this. Starting in then on the committee reports, Operations and Policy, Mr. Lawrence.
Thank you, President Martin. We have four things to quickly review. One, I think I'll ask the borough manager to give a status update on the fundraising policy, but just as background, there's been efforts over the last several months to define an appropriate policy for appointed councils and committees of the borough to handle any desired fundraising. Mr. Abrams?
Thank you, Mr. Lawrence. That is actually a very good summary. There's also a summary on the request form at the back of your packets, going through and describing the work that's been done. Policy was drafted. It's been through option policy twice and with reviews, and then we had Mr. Corbel review it. So what council members have in their packets tonight for consideration is the policy with the red lines, so you can see what edits were made. But it would be cleaned up unless council has other comments, changes that they wish to make. The vote would be motion would be made to approve it.
Mr. Bacon?
I don't have any extremely specific concerns or questions about this. However, there's a few times where it mentions things needing to be approved by Borough Council in advance. Wondering if we have any sort of threshold on that or guidance as to that procedure, either in other policies already, or just a little bit more explanation of what that would entail.
Where are you referring to?
So on page 2, eligible expenditures down at the bottom, it says expenses must be approved by Borough Council, which is the red line there, by Borough Council in advance. And must benefit, or the rest isn't what I'm really questioning there. It's just the by Borough Council. I'd be curious about the reasoning for specifying or adding the specific of by Borough Council on that. Whether we're talking like a committee or the whole council or business meeting or like a motion, what is sort of required for that approval? Because I think we should have that well understood as a specific action needed.
Mr. Corbel, correct me, I believe that would be a vote in the business meeting. Thank you. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I can point them out to the borough manager.
Well, hopefully that won't sink everything.
Don't think it will.
Anyone else? Okay, let's proceed with that. The other three things on the agenda, well, two things are somewhat informational. Number 2, discussion of committee structure. For everyone here, at the beginning of the calendar year, a decision was made by the council to redo how we handle committees, pulling it out of the committee of the whole, hoping that would be a more efficient and better way to handle things. And at the time, that would be in January 1st, beginning of January, we determined we would review that in 6 months. So 6 months came. And in this meeting, I believe last week or last month, there was some discussion of that. I believe at this point, in discussions today, but I can't really review that. I believe at this point, members of the council's primary concern may have been that they don't get enough information about what goes on in individual legislative committees. And so what we determined in ops and policies last month was that the borough manager would put together summaries of those meetings. So just to tell everyone on council, you are going to be getting summaries of all the legislative committee meetings. And I'd encourage you to read those so you do know what's going on. And then the suggestion would be that perhaps in a few, 3-4 months, is that working to allay any concerns? I don't think there's any decision to do at this point. We're just more encouraging you when that comes in the email, read it. Okay. We have an appointment of a resident to the Tree and Shrub Advisory Committee, Mr. Abrams.
I do apologize. It's on there and right now the name is escaping me because I did not have it in my work, but I know that we reviewed it at last month's.
Okay, we'll just have to hold on that then.
Yeah.
Well, nothing, no big deal. And then finally, 4, really the same as number 2. We had some discussion on that. As you all hear at the beginning of these agenda meetings and committee meetings, and of course, the business meeting, there's that public comment. There's 2 paragraphs that are read to you to explain how that is handled. That is about 5 to 6 years old. It was a revision of something that was much fuzzier and less clear before that, but it was considered that there's some things that we could do that would help our residents understand better the role of the public comment session. Basically, Ops and Policies is going to kind of look amongst ourselves to see if there's anything particularly we could do to clarify that. So that's just informational again. There's nothing else with that. Other than that, I have nothing else with the Operations Policy Committee, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Lawrence. Moving on then to the Finance Committee, Ms. Lewis.
Madam President. The only thing to report, the Finance Committee met last week. It was my first committee meeting. And as a full-time employee, the current meeting time in the middle of the day doesn't work well for me. I know the solicitor is shocked. So we are going to change the time of that committee meeting. Like to change that and would need the borough manager to advertise.
What is the time? Please.
If I remember, I think we were moving it to a Monday morning. It would be like 9:30 in the morning or something like that.
That is correct.
Yeah. You have room?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. Moving on then to Borough Property, Mr. Bacon.
Thank you, Madam President. We are looking to set up 2 motions. The first one being to authorize the solicitor to draft an ordinance naming a set of previously identified roads. This would be the alleys that we asked resident suggestions for. Reestablishing speed limits and setting the travel direction of Pacific Avenue between Marion and Lenox. Those last 2 items just being ones where there are signs up, but I believe we technically can't enforce them until there is an ordinance that is passed to fill out all the needs of the legalities there. Is that correct, Mr. Corbel? I think the one addition that I would like us to all just have a final chance to review and maybe distribute in a concise manner to the public before we vote on this would just be the list of the alley names, just so everyone gets to see those one more time. Does anyone have any comments or concerns on this? Mr. Bayoshi?
Yeah, I don't think that everyone here has agreed on the final naming, so I think we all need to all have agreement on what those final names are before we take a vote.
Do we feel it could be done as a step before?
We could do
The
it
motion
via
next
email if you,
Yeah,
that's fine. I think everyone should,
Yeah.
Yeah.
look at it, have an opinion, and then go from there.
President Martin?
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, from a Sunshine Act perspective, you guys should not be doing that. Group, but should be directing it to the manager. Some other individual point person, just to make, not that you were going to do that, I just wanted to make sure that you knew. I would feel bad if you didn't do that.
Right.
Insane.
Mr. Abrams?
Just as a point of order, when you vote on, if you vote on this next week, it's to authorize the drafting of it. We would still need to advertise it. So an actual vote during a regular business meeting would not occur until August anyway. So there's time to advertise as an ordinance. So this is, the motion is to authorize the drafting of these three items. Then consider.
Thank you. President Martin?
I remember getting an email with the names, and if nobody responded back, I thought, then do you want us to respond back and say, yes, I agree to these then?
If I remember correctly, I think we have the email of sort of the top choice and were there one or two like ambiguous vote counts or something like that where it wasn't totally clear cut?
The original email had provided the top vote getters for each one. One or two had to be eliminated because they already existed. Although the reasoning behind it was noble, but we can't have two of the same streets. I then took the list, once I deduped it, put out a recommendation of the names that were the highest ranked, and then went specifically and sent it out for feedback, at which point there really was no feedback. So happy to send it out again as a final round.
That would be helpful.
And thank you for reminding me. I remember I had one feedback on one and was talked down for my concerns. So yeah, we have had that. How about we consider it everyone reviews it beforehand, and if you have concerns, please let Mr. Abram know. Otherwise, we consider it a yes or no approval of all of them vote in authorizing drafting that ordinance. Sound good to everyone?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And then the next item on here is to craft a motion to authorize the manager and solicitor to negotiate a new revocable license agreement for a segment of lot 374-B-268 with the new owner of 122 Marwood Avenue. And to translate, if one is going up Marwood Avenue, this is in the area of Forest Hills up above Domino's, there's a basically hairpin 180-degree turn with one house in the inner part of that turn. And on the outside of that turn, there's a flat gravel parking pad, basically, that is just borough property that is not used for anything, can't really be used for anything, but there is an agreement with a house, I believe is the second door down from that actual corner, to just have use of that gravel parking pad for, I think it was $50 a month or something like that, established in 2015. And the property changed hands, so we just want to renegotiate and reestablish that. There's really no other possible use for that spot. It's not a safety or other concern, at least that we could think of when discussing this in committee. So that's what we would like to put forth as a motion. Does anyone have any concerns or comments? Okay, if you drive by and just look towards the outside of that turn, you will know the turn that I'm talking about, and it's pretty clearly visible. And just as a final item, as a general report for borough property, the borough steps around the Cook Park area are in progress. It looks like one of the sides is down to dirt and mostly getting cleared up for concrete forms and pavement prep. And there are some concrete forms in progress for the steps on another part of that right now. And unless there are other questions or comments, that is all for borough property. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bacon. Moving on then, planning and zoning, Mr. DeCrosta.
Thank you, Madam President. So we still have on our setting agenda, this proposed ordinance to rezone lot block 300-H-160, which is the Drew's property. I thank the residents who came tonight to express their views on how we should proceed with that property. Just to explain what has been proposed and what was recommended by the Planning Commission is that we change the current zoning from S1 which is special use zone, which is all of the properties from Drew's down towards the Cosman building, to a B1, which is a business zoning, which is all of the other properties to the other side of that Drew's property. Our understanding is that the biggest difference from S1 to B1 would be that it would allow for automotive businesses to enter that lot with approval from Borough Council for conditional use. So that's where we stand right now. I've spoken to most of my colleagues about this and, what we're thinking. We've heard the residents speak. So we have until August, technically, the August business meeting to vote on this. But I was going to propose that we push it to July to give the owner an answer sometime this summer, as opposed to waiting till August. And I just wanted to see if anyone was opposed to that, if they think that we should wait until August and not put it on our July agenda, or if they're okay to put it on the July agenda. Right. You don't think we're going to have time to do the ordinance for July? Okay. Okay. All right, well then, we'll just leave it for the August meeting then, but just knowing that, we're gonna move forward with this by the August business meeting. Oh, Mr. Bacon.
Can you clarify to everybody here that everything, I believe everything you spoke about, like moving forward, and we're just talking about the timing of the vote. Not
Correct, it's just
necessarily,
about-
this is not, everyone is saying a vote of yes, just because it could have been, I felt
I'm not clear
interpreted.
on
that
what you're asking.
I just wanted to make sure that we were clear that you were describing like moving forward with things and that we're talking about the vote. Moving
Yeah.
forward with the vote, not.
Yeah,
like
just.
moving dramatic,
Nothing else to
yes.
move forward with,
Yeah, I just want to make sure that everyone had clarity.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's just about, voting in favor of this new ordinance or not for the rezoning. Okay, so you don't think we have time for July? Okay, all right, so we'll just. Okay, excellent. Otherwise, we'll just wait till the August business meeting to approve. 6 days? 60, okay, we don't have enough, okay. Okay, well, we're trying, but we'll get there by the end of the summer. Thank you. That's all I have to report, Madam President.
Thank you. Mr. Fosbrink, may we have the Public Works Committee?
Thank you, Madam President. First, we will have a motion for council to authorize us to move forward with the bid, the CoStar's bid for Insight Pipe for the Ardmore Boulevard CIPP lining Phase 2. So if you see that in your packet this evening, it is the one from LSSE that looks like this. And it is a total of $32,435. Which is a little bit less than we had it budgeted at 40,000. So there's a little bit of savings there in going with CoStars. They are essentially, because it's through CoStars approved and we could move forward. So that motion will be on the agenda unless anyone has an issue there. Questions? Okay. Second would be an authorization to bid for the Storm Basin retrofit project as part of the MS4 pollution reduction requirements. So if you look at the second legislative request form that Mr. Abrams has for us, it explains the MS4. And this would garner us about 14,000 pounds of reduction, which is 10% towards our goal that we're supposed to achieve for 2026. So we will have a motion to recommend going ahead and bidding for this. Questions? Or Mr. Brett, am I missing anything that I need to address in that statement?
No, this is one of a few existing ponds that we're going to go in and retrofit. So this is the cheapest of the work that's going to be done over the next 12. Getting this one onto the street.
Anyone else? Questions? Thank you. The next item is number 3, the Decatur, the issue over on Decatur that the resident has brought to us, and we've been looking for ways to address this. So what you have in front of you And maybe I'll kick this over to Mr. Brett to give more of an explanation. The big 11 by 17 sheet is, if we could run through that, Kevin?
Sure. We did a field review after the last regular meeting. The resident come in and voice concerns over Decatur Street, pieces of it decaying. Other areas of Decatur have been overlaid in the past. This section, we've looked at it two different ways. The cost before you is what's been done on the other sections, which is base repair on the worst areas, and then a leveling course and wearing course put on the street. So a couple of these sections are very steep. Round figures, the cost to do the 3 blocks in question is about $55,000. I do think that we have a legitimate shot to have enough savings in this year's contract to add this at the end. What I think the council could consider is, because the contractor is going to come in over the next few weeks to a month to get started. And if you wanted to add this at the end, as long as we're under the total amount that currently has been awarded, we could add this on the very end as long as we stayed under the amount you awarded. It's in the same area. We have streets, within a few blocks of the area. I do want to look at it one more time before next week's meeting. There is areas that we've just done in the past concrete repair and not overlaid it. The only reason I want to look at it again, the one section is very, very steep and it's had concrete patches on it. It's one of the sections that is deteriorating the most. I just want to check it again when it rains. I want to see how slippery it is. And the same $55,000, we have units bid in the current contract to actually do concrete spot repair. We could spend the same $55,000 and just do spot repair on the concrete. I'd like to look at that with Public Works and the manager. And then for next week's meeting, come back with my final recommendation in public, because you wouldn't be spending additional money. It would be within this year's contract if you wanted to consider that. I'm just worried in the wintertime. I want to hear from Mike if he has any issues on those surrounding streets that are asphalt versus the concrete. Because a lot of times the concrete gives you a little better grip. And I'm just concerned because the new type of asphalt does get a little more slippery. It's more porous than the asphalt did from 20 years ago. So if you would give me that latitude to just think about it a little bit more, because when you come over the crest and you come down that really steep part, I kind of want to come up in a few times and say, okay, with Mike, how is this as far as winter maintenance, and just have that discussion. That's why these streets were originally concrete, but you have been successful paving them. I mean, that's been the standard repair you've done, is overlay these streets after you do some base repair and then just saw cut the joints. You've gotten good life out of that. I just, because of how steep that one section is, it just gives me a little bit of pause. But the dollar amount would be the same. It would be in the 55,000 range.
Thank you. Let me just address before I get to Mr. Bacon. I was very pushy about us getting some movement here because I was concerned that if the paving contract started, we've already awarded that to the pavers. If they got started, we wouldn't have an opportunity to come back and even look if there were something we could do to address the residents' concern on Decatur. So Mr. Brett looked at that and came up with this, which I'm just looking at for the first time as well. So we have not discussed this in the Public Works Committee. But my concern is if we wait until next month to do that, and then we have to wait another month or, a few weeks later to actually take any action, we're going to miss an opportunity to be able to make any changes with the paving contract before they actually start. So, Mr. Bacon.
I'm wondering if Mr. Brett can explain a little bit, something that Dalton mentioned in the committee meeting on this, just explaining to us some of the options. And he mentioned that some of these concrete repairs could be base layer repairs that would essentially be an investment towards eventual repaving on top of that.
Yeah, so you have two ways to do the base repair. If you're going to overlay the street, then we do the base repair with asphalt instead of concrete. So we'll take out a bad slab, we'll put asphalt in, and that's cheaper by about 50% than putting concrete in. If you're not going to overlay the street, then we would do concrete spot repair, fix the slabs, and then in the future, you could consider overlaying the street. If it continued to deteriorate. Deterioration is the joints go bad from the salt. You go down the street, you got sections that are just a few cracks, not horrible. And then I think the resident brought chunks of concrete in. So over the winter, we get down to 0. You have joints that are about 6 inches wide now that over the years have gotten sealed, that pieces have broken off when the plow went through, just from wear and tear. And this street has no shame. I mean, it was probably done 80 years ago, 90 years ago. I mean, it's concrete life. It's well past its life expectancy. So that's the two options you have is if we go with what's on the paper here, then we're overlaying it, and I'm going to fix those bad spots by putting asphalt in those areas, digging out the slabs, and then putting base in. If we stick with concrete only, then we're going to saw cut out the slabs and just put concrete back in. Be rake finished on the top, so it's rougher. That's your two options that you have. And
President Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Brett. I have concerns. The road is rated at a 5.92. Council started working on repairing or fixing the worst roads first because a resident came to us with a letter from the post office because they wouldn't deliver mail there anymore. It was the worst road from 1 to 10. It was a 1 and had failed every test. So I know we aren't even finished with the 4s. As much as I would like this to happen, if we have an extra 55,000, I would like to look at, and there are worse roads, and I appreciate his coming to us. It isn't a good road. I saw the repairs that have been done before, and I know Public Works has spent a lot of time there, but in my opinion, if we have extra money, we should look at a worse road. That's what I have to say. Thank you.
Well, Ms. Lewis.
I just had a question, a procedural question for the solicitor. Public bid, my understanding is any work that would be done in addition to what's currently been awarded would be done through a change order. Is there a limit to the amount or percentage of work that can be added or taken away from a contract via a change order without putting the borough at risk of violating its appropriate bidding protocols?
But these are usually bid on a material basis, right? So many dollars per square yard or whatnot, whatever it is. I'll leave that to Kevin, but as long as we're using those unit amounts, you can issue a change order. I think Kevin was talking about the differences to what we've budgeted or put out there as a maximum for the amount that we awarded. So trying to keep it within that range, but can you spend more? Yeah, technically, but that's a finance and budget issue, but there's no issue with what we're doing here with respect to bidding requirements, sunshine, anything like that.
Yeah, it was bid unit price base, and the change order would be just a change in scope.
Correct. It would just be add Decatur.
And as a clarification, I'll also say to everyone, even in our most recent Public Works meeting with the particular resident, I assured him that we are trying to look into it, but we're making no promises that anything can be done right away. My issue was just I wanted us to understand what it was going to cost, because we've also talked about the change order potentially of doing the permanent speed bumps and humps, sorry, and taking out the plastic speed humps, which my understanding from Public Works that they likely will not be able to be reused. Potentially, I'll say that. So rather than just chucking those in the dumpster, maybe there would be room for us to consider to leave those plastic speed humps in place for another year and fix an issue on Decatur or something else. Again, I'm bringing this up for us to discuss because we've not really discussed it in Public Works. Mr. Bioki?
I know that that's the opinion of Public Works that they can't remove the speed humps, but they're designed to be removed. So if it's done properly, they can be removed.
Understood. Yes. Mr. DeCosta?
Mr. Brett, I'm just a little confused on the rating of Decatur, because I've driven down it. And as you mentioned, there's different areas of it that are quite different. But there's one section that is particularly bad. I mean, it's bad, but it seems to have the same rating as the other two sections. Could you explain why that is? And
Yeah, the rating was done roughly 2 years ago. And that section in question, it's an average when we looked at it a couple years ago. If we looked at it today, that section would be probably a 4.
A 4.
Today, yeah, this, as part of this year's budget process, the road table will get updated. It's been 3 years, to reflect, okay, we had 2 really good winters. And then this past year, we had a long stretch of 0-degree weather, and your concrete streets took a beating. Things that looked not too bad 2 years ago, that may have been 7s, they're probably 5s today. Just because of that 0-degree temperature for such an extended period of time. It broke a lot of things up that hadn't been, even catch basins. Catch basins that were not in horrible shape. There's some of them that's collapsed in the last year because of it. That does need done for this budget cycle. We don't do that every year. It'd be very costly to every year update every road. You try to work from that top of the list, but I do think because we had such a severe winter, that's well. The other thing is we've had a terrible summer with wetness. So roads got extremely soaked over the last 6 weeks, 8 weeks. Everything's soft underneath. So that also has had a negative impact on a lot of it.
you feel pretty confident that that area would fall under a 4, even though we don't have an official rating.
And there's definitely areas of 4 on the
Mhm.
street and some probably 3s.
Okay.
That there's pads that have disintegrated in the last 2 years. So,
Mr. Lawrence?
Yeah. Same concerns that President Martin does about monkeying with road ratings. However, if you believe a particular piece of the road should be reevaluated and given a different rating, I think that could justify this action. And if we want to go down that road, I think it would be appropriate to have at least some kind of memo that you read about. Sure. It goes on the record. Otherwise, this does look a little off.
I would agree.
I agree.
I think that would be well worth it to do that. And actually, I could break it into sections. The other thing, if we did just a piece of a road versus all the road, I can kind of project for you what that cost looks like in the future to go back and do like a small piece of the street. You get a lot of cost savings by doing the whole block. But we can give you that as well. I can do that for next week.
President Martin?
I just wanted to say, I agree with what Mr. Lawrence had just said. If this is a 4, then it should be done.
There's one section that definitely is that I wrote over tonight.
Okay, thank
In
you.
very bad shape.
Mr. Bacon?
I just wanted to third or whatever it is at this point that I think having it on record as a new evaluation is important for this. And I think it is also important that we expect to have additional need in the future for flexibility or adjustment in, shorter term damage to roads and things in the future, because it's not going to be an issue that we don't see again in the future, unfortunately.
Absolutely. Thank you. So just to clarify, we don't actually have any motion that will be coming to you, but as time will be of the essence and we get more information from Mr. Brett in Public Works, we may ask us to discuss this. And then the last thing is obviously the same follow-up from Ms. Lewis is that we are moving our Public Works time to coincide with the Finance Committee meeting, which would be Mondays immediately after Finance. Ms. Lewis?
Yes, I have now consulted my calendar and that would be the fourth Monday of the month. The Finance Committee would meet at 9 and the Public Works Committee would meet at 10.
And
Just
Mr. Abrams?
as one administrative follow-up on that, I will be obviously re-advertising, but I will be republishing the calendars for everyone to reflect that.
That's all we have. Thank you, Madam President. Oh, unless we have specific updates from the engineer or Mr. Bacon.
Did we have anything at this point that we'd like to give a just heads up on with the catch basin that we were talking about in Cherry Valley, or are we still?
Oh,
working on
the
that?
Cherry Valley catch basin where the spring is, the water runoff. Where are we on that project or?
I think at the voting meeting, that needs authorized for us to survey. Not to exceed number. It's about a half a day of survey, design plans, and then just direction if you want to do it or if you're going to do it in-house. It's about 250 foot of storm sewer roughly, catch basin and a connection. So $3,500 of survey and design. Want to put it out to bid, I would do that all in one motion, authorize it to be put out to bid as soon as we have the documents ready. If you could. That way it's a project to be completed. That is definitely necessary. That water's not going to stop.
Well, as I'm a little confused onto where we go with that, Madam President. You know what I mean? Because I don't know that we have all of the information in front of us yet to recommend that it's going to council on the agenda setting meeting. Unless I'm confused on something, Mr. Bacon.
I think maybe we were going to take another month to get more specifics, but I thought it's something people should just be aware of is in some sort of motion for the rest of council to be aware.
I can provide a memo for the Public Works meeting.
Thank you.
It can be on next month's agenda.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam President.
We're finished?
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Moving on then to Public Safety, Mr. Bioki.
Yeah, thank you, President Martin. I have one item, it was already mentioned, was to change the temporary speed humps to permanent speed humps as part of the road bid package as a change order. We had a brief discussion on that. There were sufficient funds left in our fund to do this. So I'm asking that be moved to the business meeting for a vote. Mr. Bacon?
Just to confirm, are we converting all of the ones feel they're all worthwhile?
Yes.
Thank you.
Anyone else? No. Mr. Abrams?
At our pre-construction meeting for the roads, did discuss this with the paving contractor, and based on a question that you had asked, they did state that if we did the painting, we could do the line painting ourselves quite easily, or we could go out and do it, and it would be less expensive, and they'd be very happy to have us do it. So that would lower the overall cost. The original bid for the original quote for the change order for the speed humps and the painting was 26,000. So it would drop it down.
Wasn't that about, they added another 8 or 10,000 for painting? I mean, so it would be about 8 less. Something like that.
It would definitely, off the top, I can't remember because they also had the signs in there, which we were not doing. But it was about 26,000 for the 2 segments. And if we do the painting either ourselves, obviously be a lot less expensive, or if we contract out individually and not through them, it would still be a savings of at least a couple of thousand.
Thank you. The next item is the after action recommendations from the storm that we had. This isn't anything that would move to the business meeting, but I would like to make sure that everyone reviews those recommendations. There may be some things that are in that document that eventually would go to council for a vote, but I don't think we're at that point yet and ready to make any recommendations to have that come before council for a vote. That concludes public safety.
Thank you, Mr. Bioki. Is there any old business? Any new business? Okay, I knew you wanted to talk something.
Yeah, in this fascinating discussion of people changing their meeting times, I forgot that I'm now teaching class on Tuesdays at 1 o'clock. So before you advertise, Mr. Abrams, Mr. Fosbrook, and Mr. Baoki will have to see if we can monkey with that a little bit. I apologize, it just didn't really cross my radar. Thank you.
What other new business? Okay, then I move to adjourn the meeting by acclamation. Are there any objections? Thank you. Meeting is adjourned. Okay.